Hey everyone, you know that feeling when you look at a big exam question and just don't know where to start? Well, that's what we're going to fix today. We're taking a real AQI GCSE Biology question and we're going to crack it wide open. The mission is simple. Figure out exactly how to get every single mark on the table.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the initial BMI challenge, then we'll get into reading the chart properly. After that, we'll nail the calculation, spot the patterns in the data they give us, explain the wider impact, and then we'll finish up by really getting to grips with the mark scheme itself. Let's do it.
Right, so our entire focus is question 3, and it's all about body mass index, or BMI. Now, this is a classic topic. It comes up all the time because it's the perfect way for examiners to test two things at once. Can you interpret data, and can you apply what you know from biology?
So, this is where we begin. We've got this table with info on person A and person B. Now, the very first thing your brain should be screaming is, look at that X for person B's BMI. That's a massive clue that a calculation is coming up. But before we even touch the calculator, the exam has an easier first step for us.
Okay, let's ease into this. The first part is designed to be a pretty straightforward mark. It's really just a simple test. Can you pull information accurately from a chart? Let's make sure we bank that point.
And here is that first question. It's only worth 1 mark. All we have to do is grab person A's BMI from that first table. Remember, it was 23.1, and then use the chart to figure out which category they fall into.
Now, you could try to find their mass and height on the axes and see where the lines meet, but honestly, there's a much faster way. We already know their BMI is 23.1, so just look at the categories on the chart. You can see straight away that the normal category covers everything up to 24.9. So 23.1 fits right in there. Simple as that.
And boom, that's it. 1 word, normal. The official mark scheme confirms it. That's all the examiner is looking for to give you that mark.
Okay, deep breath. Now for the mass. This is a 3-marker, which is a big deal in an exam. That means every single step of your working is absolutely crucial. Let's break down exactly how you secure all 3 of those marks.
The great thing here is that the question gives you everything you need. It literally hands you the formula, so you don't need to have it memorized. It points you back to person B's data, and then, and this is so important, it gives a very specific instruction. Give your answer to 3 significant figures.
To guarantee those 3 marks, you have to show your method. Step 1, just plug the numbers in. Write out 92 divided by 1.71 squared. That alone gets you your first mark. Step 2, type it into your calculator and write down the long, unrounded answer, something like 31.46 and so on. That's your second mark. The final, crucial mark comes from rounding that number correctly.
And that brings us to our final answer, 31.5, presented exactly as the question asked. And notice you don't need to add any units because they're already in the table. Just the number, correctly rounded, gets you that final mark.
Okay, so we're done with the calculator. The question's about to shift gears now. We're moving away from pure maths and into analysis. This next part is all about whether you can spot trends in a new chunk of data.
So now we get this new table. Just take a second and scan it. Ask yourself, as you go down the rows, from normal all the way down to clinically obese, what's happening to the years in good health and what's happening to the years in bad health? And look, the question is super specific. It asks for 2 distinct patterns. This means you need to find 2 different relationships in those numbers and write them down.
So pattern number 1 is pretty clear, right? The higher the BMI category, the lower the number of years living in good health. It's a classic inverse relationship. As one thing goes up, the other thing comes down.
And for the second mark, we just look at that last column. This time, as the BMI category goes up, the number of years in bad health also goes up. So you'd write something like, the higher the BMI category, the higher the number of years living in bad health.
Now, here's a really useful bit of exam wisdom. The mark scheme is usually pretty flexible. You didn't have to use those exact words. You could have flipped it and talked about lower BMI instead. Or you could have even pointed out that total life expectancy goes down. Any of these would have got you the points.
All right, we are on the home stretch. We've done the reading, the maths, the analysis. Now it's time to pull in some of our own biology knowledge. These last few questions are all about the real-world impact of the trends we've just been looking at.
So, first up, we need to explain the financial impact. Those are the key words here. It's not just about listing things, it's about explaining the money side of it for the whole country.
And here's how you get both marks. The first mark is for saying it costs the NHS or the government more money. Simple. The second, more important explain mark comes from saying why, because of things like extra medication, more surgeries, or having to treat related conditions like diabetes and strokes.
Okay, next question. This one's just a one marker. It's asking, hey, if someone has arthritis, how does that affect their day-to-day life?
And again, look at this. The mark scheme gives you so many ways to be right. You could talk about physical stuff like having trouble moving around, or wider impacts like losing a job because of it, or even the effect on mental health. Any one of these gets you the point. And for the last part of this question, it's just a straight-up knowledge check. Name 2 health problems you can get from eating a diet that's high in saturated fat.
The mark scheme gives you a few options, but these are your best bets. Type 2 diabetes is a perfect answer. For your second one, anything to do with heart problems is going to get you the mark. So you could say heart attack, stroke, or just cardiovascular disease. Naming any 2 of those gets you both marks.
So let's take a breath and zoom out. We've just taken apart an entire 11-mark question piece by piece. What did we actually learn about exam technique from doing all that?
I mean, just think about it for a second. We had to read data, do a calculation with very specific rounding rules, describe patterns, and then apply our own knowledge. The real secret to acing these exams isn't just knowing the biology, it's mastering these different skills.
And that's why doing this is so powerful. It helps you think like an examiner. It turns revision from just passively reading notes into an active skill. So I'll leave you with this question. Looking back at everything we just did, what's the one skill you know you need to work on next?